Welcome to Metal Bias, a podcast where we talk about all things music.
Well, the things we care about.
That's right, which is mainly metal music and live music. I'm your host, Brian, joined with your other host,
Karen.
And Karen, what is this episode all about?
The Rock Orchestra.
By Candlelight.
By Candlelight, yes.
Yes, here in Chicago. We saw them February 28th, 2025 at the Chicago Theater.
Yes.
They were the only band playing. Tickets for this, going over the price real quick, $59.50, then $22.15 in fees, and $8.17 in tax. We have seen a Candlelight before.
We did. We went and saw the guy that does like Harry Potter. What's his name?
No, not Harry Potter. Hans Zimmerman.
Hans Zimmerman. He doesn't do Harry Potter?
I don't think he does. That's John Williams and somebody else who does the later ones.
It sounds similar.
He did the Pirates movies.
Oh, Pirates, yes.
Gladiator,
yes.
The same song, basically. Yeah. Some stuff for Christopher Nolan, like Batman, I think, and whatnot.
Yeah. Candlelight does a lot of them. There was one that we were going to try to go to and we had a concert. It was Linkin Park. And we couldn't go. And now they haven't announced that one again.
They haven't, or they have?
They haven't.
Okay.
No, but they do like rock ones. This was a little bit different than the first one we saw.
Yeah, so like it was almost a year ago that we saw that first one, and it was a really cool sort of experience because this was in, I think, Slay Mansion, something like that.
Ooh, Stan Mansion or something.
Something like that. Yeah. We did a whole episode on that.
It's like a house that's converted into a event venue.
Yeah, and it's really, really cool. I really enjoyed the experience of that. And the whole thing with Candlelight is they like take over these weird sort of smaller venues, and they have a bunch of candlelights all over the place, and that's supposed to be like the lighting for the event.
Yeah.
And then they play, and like we said, we saw the Hans Zimmerman one, or Hans Zimmer. I always fuck up his name. Sorry.
Hans Zimmer, I think.
I think Hans Zimmer. I always say Zimmerman for some reason.
Yeah.
But it was a quartet playing for that.
Yep.
And this more of an orchestra, so a lot more people playing, but similar sort of aesthetics or sort of thought going into this is what I thought we'd be experiencing.
Yeah, I guess I thought the same thing, that there would be the candles on the stage and stuff, but.
And not real candles. They're the fake ones.
The fake ones that
the
light
flickers. Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, like I didn't really know much about, and I knew that it would be like an orchestra playing.
Yeah.
I thought it would be more like a play with orchestra where the orchestra is like in the pit, if that makes sense. Am I saying that right?
Well, like a standard orchestra where they are like set up in that oval sort of or half circle thing, and you have the conductor in front. Because when you go to an orchestra, they're not down in the pit. They're in that pit thing for like plays and stuff like that.
I guess that's what I was thinking, is that they would be in the pit. Like
with
playing.
like a show going on top
I don't know what I thought.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, I didn't think they would be like in the circle with like a conductor. I didn't have that thought. I don't know why I thought it, I guess.
Oh yeah, that makes no sense to me why they'd be in that pit thing then, unless you have like a little whole presentation thing going up there.
I mean, there could have been a presentation.
Maybe. I assumed it would have been sort of the half circle normal sort of when you go to a classical sort of presentation sort of vibe.
Which it kind of was, just very small.
Yeah. Especially given like the poster to like advertise this, because it shows just the conductor up there and like the Dia de los Muertos skulls and whatnot. Like he's up there conducting. Yeah. So I kind of expected an actual orchestra, but that's not what we got. The stage when we got there was really cool setup. These two like skull pillars with candlelights all over them, candlelights all over the stage, a giant skull in between those two pillars, and then two smaller skulls down in front with candles on them as well. Really, really cool stage setup and vibe to it.
I really liked the stage setup. I thought it was really cool. We have a picture, so we could always put it in here into the video.
Yeah, let's do that because
YouTube.
my only complaint with the stage setup is one of those two skulls in the front, because they were both sort of laid the same way, facing the same way.
And you thought it should be opposite.
Yeah, so it would have been more symmetrical that way if one was faced opposite.
Yeah.
So that was honestly pissing me off as the night went on. I kept looking at that. I was like, God damn it, you fucked up. It should have been flipped the other way.
It never bothered me at all. And even when you pointed it out, I was like, oh yeah, I guess it is a little opposite. But then I never thought of it again.
So yeah, no, let's throw a photo up there for anybody watching this on YouTube for sure. And kind of, I'll put an arrow to like what I'm talking about with these skulls.
Okay.
Because even that center skull, I kind of got the vibe with those two big pillars that this was like a throne almost. And either that skull in the middle was like the main character, or that was the back of the throne. It felt very throny to me.
Oh, okay.
And then on either side of that as well, you had you had your orchestra bits over here and then your brass bits over here. So
Yeah.
like your strings over to the stage right, and then on stage left was your brass, your woodwinds, and even your drum kit as well.
Yeah, the drum kit. Yeah.
Which as we were going,
the
percussionist.
percussion was on by the strings though.
So they
the bass string was over with the
yeah.
brass. So it was a little intermingled. It wasn't like you're here. Like when we saw S&M 2, it was like you definitely had your woodwinds, you definitely had your brass, you had your
which is
strings.
typically how like a classical sort of thing is set up anyway. You like you have your woodwind section, you have your string section, and then like one row is violins and violas behind that and so on and whatnot there. I did notice as it went on though, it made a distinction to me. Stage right was your classical sort of aspect of it, and percussions in classical is like the xylophone. Not just like drums and whatnot, but like xylophone. And I think he had like a hi-hat too he was playing with.
Yeah, he did. And a cowbell.
And well, I don't know where the cowbell was. I don't know if that was on the drum kit.
Was it him? I could see him. You couldn't see him?
I didn't see him do the cowbell,
okay.
no.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like sitting down, but yeah, you could.
I know some people on their drum kits have a cowbell as well that they'll have fun with.
That was where we were sitting. It was hard to see the drum kit because the trumpets were there. But I mean, at other aspects, it could be easier to see.
But stage right to me felt very more classical.
Yeah.
And I know classical music does include brass, it does include woodwinds and whatnot. But on stage left then is where all of those guys were located with the drum kit. And to me, that felt more of the rock and roll sort of aspect. And sort of melding those two together. You have classical and rock, and then the melding of the two is what is shown. But I also got more of a swing or jazz sort of vibe from stage left than I did classical. Like it definitely had a heavy swing sort of jazzy sort of vibe to it.
Stage left, like the strings?
No, where the brass and stuff was.
Yeah, no, totally. Sorry, I was getting confused on what you were saying. But definitely. I even during the first song, I was like, this is very jazzy.
Yeah.
I do want to say like when like the house lights go down and it kind of starts, there's an announcement, and the announcement, I don't remember the exact words, but it's basically like putting a classical aspect on the greatest genre,
like melding these two great genres together, melding the great classical genre with the great rock genre, and melding those two together, and boom, here's what you get.
And as immediately when that was said, it took me back to the Olympics. And the announcement with the stupid announcer talking during Gojira and being like, who would have thought to have classical with metal? And I'm just like, you don't know anything. Like, you should not be commentating right now.
No, that was definitely annoying during the Olympics for sure. But
luckily that's stripped out and you can see it on YouTube without the commentation. But when she was talking, it's in so many podcasts now because it just drove me nuts. But I'm just like, shut the fuck up, like let Gojira play.
But I mean, and we've seen Metallica do S&M 2, and that's a great sort of melding of this.
You have Apocalyptica who does the cellos with metal music,
and they're classically trained cellists. And then they sort of like, let's do some metal with this as well. So that's really cool.
Locally to Chicago, you have Revive who does cellos as well. So
with not just metal but like pop music as well. Like they're melding other music with classical sort of instruments.
Which I mean, I'm sure it's across multiple genres. And now to the announcers thing for the Gojira and Olympics. I don't know other genres that do this, but I'm sure it's across multiple genres.
Oh yeah, you always have some genre like reaching down, like a pop song will use strings every now and then, right? So they'll bring in classical elements.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Well, I guess even Candlelight does, like Beyonce nights and Taylor Swift nights,
Adele nights and stuff like that.
Nights, So I mean, it does go with the music.
And it's a kind of a cool thing. I really like this concept of taking one song or one genre even, and reimagining that song as, a classical song, or even somebody remixing the song. Like think of Last Resort by Papa Roach, and then Falling in Reverse does it.
Yes.
I like their version so much more.
I do too than I almost said classical, but the original Papa Roach one. I love Falling in Reverse's version or cover of it. I love that a lot.
And then after that announcement, they started going into their set, and they start with a classic piece, Storm, I think, by Vivaldi.
Vivaldi, yeah.
But I guess let's dive into the rest of the set list real quick.
Let's do that, and then I have a couple comments on some other classical stuff that we've seen that I want to kind of ask you. So, but going to the set list, they do start with Storm by Vivaldi. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right.
Okay. Then Thunderstruck by AC/DC, Last Resort by Papa Roach, Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, Dream On by Aerosmith, Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. Some of these I don't feel like we need to say who they're by, but I'll just keep going with it. No One Knows by Queens of the Stone Age, Run to the Hills by Iron Maiden, Bring Me to Life by Evanescence, Toxicity by System of a Down.
And that was the end of the first set.
Yes, yep, that's the end of the first set. So there was 2 sets with a intermission.
15, 20-minute intermission.
Yeah, they said 15 minutes, but I think it was like 20.
It was.
It was more than 15.
And then they come back and they go into a very similar structure where they start with another classical piece and then go into the other stuff. And it was like Fear Lisa or Fear something.
Yeah, I don't know how you say it. Fear Elise or
Fear Elise. Yeah, that's right. By Beethoven.
Yeah, by Beethoven. And then Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. Nothing Else Matters by Metallica. Tainted Love by Gloria Jones. Welcome to the Jungle, Guns N' Roses. Ace of Spades by Motorhead. Chop Suey by System of a Down. Zombie by the Cranberries. Killing in the Name Of by Rage Against the Machine. And then they came out for an encore with Enter Sandman by Metallica.
So what were your, before getting super far into the set, what were your questions, I guess, about classical that we've seen?
Not really questions. I guess it's maybe one comment, 2 comments maybe. But just a couple weeks ago, we saw Apocalyptica play Metallica. Apocalyptica plays Metallica is what it was called. Yep. So during that set, during our podcast for that, you had mentioned that during their set, you kind of got bored.
Okay.
And you were ready for something else. During this, did you ever get bored and want something else?
No, I didn't. And I'm trying to think back to the Apocalyptica. I'm trying to think back to that set and that show we saw. And I if I had to say it now, I wouldn't say I was necessarily bored. It's been a few weeks, but I was ready for something other than Metallica.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to hear their music. Like, I love Metallica. I love seeing these sort of retakes and reimaginations of their songs. But I also really love Apocalyptica stuff. And I would have loved to have some of their shit sprinkled in with the Metallica. Okay. I get why they didn't do it, and I get the structure of that particular show. But I would have enjoyed a wider, view of their catalog or showing of their catalog.
Okay, gotcha. So that was kind of my second comment. That's why I was like, it's not really a question or multiple questions. But my comment is, I had a blast during Apocalyptica and during this, and I think it is, we hear these songs so much, especially during Rock Orchestra. Like, these are like the main songs of all these bands, and if you turn on the radio, you're going to hear most of these songs. Actually, all of them, probably.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, not the classical ones, the 2 classicals.
Yeah.
But you're going to hear all the
But
rock.
Those are also the ones like if you not even listen to classical, if you just watch TV or movies, these are the songs that are often selected for, like, these are like well-known classical pieces.
Yeah, you might not know the song name or the artist or the composer, not artist, but the composer of the song, but you hear the cadence and you know the
song is like, I have heard this before.
Yeah. So my comment, I don't know where I was when I interrupted myself on that, but is that these are all the songs that we hear all the time. So I love the different rendition with the classical. So I played flute in band. And so during that, or in high school band, I should say. So during this performance, I felt like the flute had such a prominent outcoming. So I loved this rendition of being able to pick out the trombone part or the flute part or, whatever was happening. During other classical stuff, I don't know, like when we saw Hans Zimmer or the Candlelight perform Hans Zimmer, I can't pick out the viola versus the violin and stuff like that. But during this I could, and I was just like, oh, that's that part of the song, and this instrument is playing that. It just kept me interested throughout the night. So that's why I remember you saying that you were bored and you were just like, I'm done with this sort of thing. And maybe you have changed your aspect on it.
Yeah. And again, I don't know. I can't remember saying that I was bored. And you edited the episodes and you just listened to it not long ago. So you have a better memory than I do on that. But looking back on it for sure, it's not that I was bored with the show itself. It was more of I wanted more diversity of the music. I love Metallica. I could listen to this all the time, and even though I'm saying like I don't want to listen to it, but
I know
you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
That I want to hear. I'm here for Apocalyptica, not just Metallica.
Yeah, you wanted some of their stuff mixed in.
Yeah.
So similar to Apocalyptica, sorry, we should probably not compare the two, but they did have vocalists come out and sing a few songs.
And I guess with the Apocalyptic set, I did bring that up as well, but mostly with Nita Strauss.
Oh, Nita Strauss, yes, because Apocalyptica this time did not have vocalists.
Right, because Nita Strauss was mostly instrumental, except for like the last 4 tracks she brought out the guest singer who sung the bits, and I was like, those were my favorite songs of when it was, I enjoy a good instrumental song, like it woven in and out of a set. I think that's really cool. Having a complete instrumental set, something I could listen to at home, sort of in background music as I'm doing chores around the house and whatnot. But and it's something I do enjoy going to watch as well. But I also do like the vocal parts, even though I'm not a vocal person. I don't listen to the vocals. I like how the vocals fit in with the music.
Yeah, when it like goes with the music. But I remember we were waiting for the doors to open. So we got there really early, but we were waiting for the doors to open. And I was like, do you think it's frowned upon to sing? Because I'm like, it's classical music. Like, again, I didn't know how it was going to be set up. So I'm like, in my mind, classical music, you don't really say anything. You don't talk. You don't, it's just like, yay, it's
little
not,
claps
like little claps.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was like, or I think I even asked you, like, do you think it's frowned upon to sing the songs when they happen? But then obviously they had vocalists come out. So, but I thought it is, when we saw Apocalyptica, I did think it was really cool. I forgot that they didn't have a vocalist this time. It was when we saw them a few years ago that they had vocalists come out. But I think it's really cool that like they're playing Metallica, so most of us there knew the lyrics.
Yeah.
So the crowd was the vocals. And here, there was a couple songs where the crowd was, kind of loud enough. But otherwise, at least around us, I don't feel like people were singing. So
I definitely heard some of the crowd sing. And it wasn't like super loud, but it was loud enough that you could hear the people singing and you knew what they were singing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like overpowering loud, like singing louder than the band by any means.
Yeah. But, and I mean, I guess that kind of goes with who you're sitting by. Cause like if the whole section's kind of like getting into it and stuff, then, I think it's.
Yeah. I felt like our section was quite chatty. A lot of chitter chatter going around.
100% chatty.
And it was kind of fucking frustrating, honestly.
Yeah.
But whatever, it is what it is, I guess.
It's going to be at every single concert, every single event now.
It is, but I was honestly not expecting it here. And I guess this is another thing too. Like this was a sold out show. I was kind of not expecting that, but kind of expecting that.
I was. Just how Candlelight sells pretty well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And but it touches, a wide range of audience. Like same thing with the, we talked about with Apocalyptica again, that's hitting the classical person who's really into classical music and wants to check this out. It's hitting the Metallica fan and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So, when we bought tickets, I originally looked into this as well. I thought they had the set list presented online, and we talked about that with Hans Zimmer, that they had the set list up there as well. And we're like, that's kind of bullshit. I want to go and not knowing what the set list is going to be.
I remember seeing the set list too.
But we looked it up like a week before and couldn't find the set list.
Yeah. But I do remember like seeing it before. So maybe once it starts, they take it down or something. I don't know.
Because I remember when we first looked into it, I think we kept calling it like the Metal Orchestra.
Yes.
And maybe that was their name or something.
Yeah.
But then it sort of changed to rock. Because we were like, but AC/DC's on here. That's not metal.
I wonder if I was getting confused because I know that Candlelight does a metal night as well. So I'm wondering if I was getting it confused with another event that they do.
Maybe.
So.
And you also looked into this a little bit, and this is sort of a Trans-Siberian Orchestra sort of thing where they have multiple troops, it seems like.
Yeah, but Candlelight's that way. Like they do different performances in different
So we talked about that too, I
cities.
think, right? Where I think it's global. It's all over the place.
Like if you visit a major city, you can look up Candlelight and see if they have an event happening.
But we were talking about that, I think, during the Hans Zimmer episode, where we thought it was sort of Candlelight's the organizer, and they just reach out to local artists or local groups who might have like a fan club or a fan, like they go out and do shit at like street festivals and whatnot. And like, hey, you want to come through here, or maybe you apply for it or something. So, but this seems like it's an actual troupe that is like they have two different troupes that are like doing multiple shows all over the place, not just somebody local who's like, I live in Chicago and I like Hans Zimmerman, and here's my 4 friends or 3 friends. We were a quartet. Could we do a Candlelight Hans Zimmer thing?
Yeah. That's so funny. During that, you said Hans Zimmerman and Hans Zimmer.
No, it's corrected so cool. myself and then I uncorrected it.
It's okay. It's all good. No, I think this is more like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, where they have a tour going on and they stop, like there's multiple groups that are stopping in different cities.
Yeah.
Because I think if you look up on set list, I think there's 2 for the 28th, if I remember right.
Okay.
Maybe not. Maybe it's the show before has 2. But anyways, yeah.
But same thing with Nita Strauss in here, as I think you were bringing up a little bit ago before going off on a tangent. The vocals, when they came out and would sing, they didn't sing every song, just a handful of songs. I enjoyed those songs much more than just the non-vocal songs, where they would just play, the instruments.
Yeah.
I also really found myself enjoying the brass section a lot more than I did the string. Normally it's the opposite. I really like strings being added to the music and whatnot. I love hearing it like a violin play a classic, like a metal piece or something. But here, I really enjoyed the brass coming out and playing, because we got that jazzy, that swingy kind of vibe to it. And I was like, I never thought about metal in a jazz context.
That's true.
Or a swing context.
Unless you have really Avatar with the trumpet.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, you don't see that. You always see the classical and not sort of metal going down other sort of genres and whatnot.
That'd be interesting to find like a brass band that does metal music.
Yeah, exactly. So like I found myself gravitating toward those songs better, or not better, but more, and enjoying those a little bit more because of that sort of, I haven't thought of it this way type thing.
I'm really glad the brass didn't overpower the other parts of they had the sound very, very well, or at least the parts that they were playing. Like if they were being center, a lot of times they did come out to the center and play. Otherwise it was kind of like if they had like a part that was more of a solo or something like that, they would come out center.
But it was arranged really well, where like nothing overpowered anything else except for when it was supposed to overpower everything else for the solos. And that was the same with the strings as well as the brass.
And we didn't go through, do you want to go through the instruments? I remember all of them.
Do you? Go ahead. Yeah, okay. I know there was like a trumpet, sax, a trombone, the thing that you do this. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. You go through the rest.
So there's 2 violinists, a violist. Is that how you say that?
Probably.
Okay. Percussionist. There was
the classical percussionist with like classical the xylophone and shit like that.
There was, at first I thought that was a keyboard, and then I realized, I was like, oh, that's not a keyboard, that's a percussion or xylophone. And then there is a cello, a bass, like a cello bass, and then there's trombone, and then the flautist. That's what they're called, is flautist, if you didn't know. The flute player played saxophone and piccolo as well. And then there was 2 trumpets, and then the drum kit.
And that's why the bass, that's why I instantly was thinking jazz and swing, because it was that upright bass.
Oh, you're right.
That you're like, like it's a different thing than
like
a cello.
Like you see that in like jazz.
So it's the upright bass, and that's where I was like, okay, this is where the jazz and swingy bits are. But then the brass coming in, and it did feel very jazzy.
Yeah. And like before it even started, I saw the saxophone sitting there. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a saxophone. I was excited. And then they come out with a flute. Like that's the instrument that they come out with. And then I didn't see the piccolo sitting there, but it must have been sitting by the saxophone, because then I saw it throughout the night.
It was on like the upright stand. There's like a little holder that they would put it in and out.
So, but like once the piccolo came out, I was so excited. I like turned to you and I'm like, piccolo.
Yeah, so a lot of instruments up there melded really well together. We didn't really talk yet about like the aesthetics of the band itself coming out with like the sugar skull fat masks and whatnot, and then like the suits, and it reminded me a lot of the James Bond movie, one of the last ones. I can't remember what one, but he's in Mexico City for Dia de los Muertos, and he's going down Mexico City in this giant parade. and everybody's celebrating. And it reminded me of that, and it felt very on theme for that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because Mexico City didn't used to have a parade until that movie came out. And
really?
Then I think they started doing a parade because of that movie.
I didn't know that.
But that, like, seeing everybody like that was like, oh my God, that fits perfectly for this. And that made me think also, like, same thing with Apocalypta again, going back to that. This venue is really, really cool. I really like the Chicago Theater. It's very ornate. It's a classical building here in Chicago. It's beautiful, beautiful building. Check out a show there for sure. This felt very weird at that venue, just like Apocalyptica felt very weird.
Yeah.
I felt like this would have been better at a small club where you can get up and dance around if you wanted.
I thought the same thing. I was like, because at the end when they came out for Enter Sandman, everyone was standing. We even moved because like the people in front of us moved so that we could have some more room. But like, if you could just move around to this music and the songs, like I think it would have been so much better.
Yeah. And even like a parade or a street festival. And then I was like, all right, well, this would fit very well in New Orleans. Like, this would be a great fucking band to see in New Orleans. It had that same voodoo kind of vibe to it.
Yeah. The dress, like the main violinist dress, like it reminded me of like what you see in New Orleans with the voodoo. Like with the voodoo, that's like the long ornate like 1800s dress with the what are those called, like bustles and a corset and stuff. Yeah, totally.
So I definitely got like the Dia de los Muertos. I definitely got like a voodoo vibe to it, like a New Orleans sort of Creole sort of vibe to it, and I really loved it. Which is where I think jazz originated from, was in New Orleans. So it makes sense that it had that sort of jazzy sort of vibe to it, especially with the brass section. So I really, really enjoyed that, and I was like, fuck, this would just be so much better if I didn't have to sit in this seat.
At a different venue.
If we could get up and move, like, we wouldn't necessarily be up front or anything. I don't know if there'd be a pit going on. There probably wouldn't, but it'd be really cool just to, like, see people dancing around a little bit and enjoying themselves a little bit more than they did here. And unlike Apocalyptica, for the most part, everybody stayed in their seat.
Yeah.
During Zombie, I did see small sections pop up and sing and dance and enjoy themselves there. But that's toward the end of the set.
It's so hard in a theater aspect, though, to like, I mean, you could stand up, but you're kind of you're just confined to like, that was, I think I had that comment during like, well, we didn't do an episode on it, but Lumineers, when we saw them, I was just like, I don't like this. Like, you're so confined to where you're supposed to be. And then same with when we went to Wrigley and saw Green Day.
Green Day, yeah.
We didn't do that was before we started podcasting as well. But it's like in that aspect of like where you have chairs and it's just like this little teeny tiny spot that you can move.
And I think every time I've been to the Grateful Dead or the Dead and Company at Wrigley, we've had assigned seats as well. But we never stay at our seats. The buddy I went with showed me the trick of you just got to get up and find the free area outside, like in the aisles or something out on the main floor.
Where they won't like yell at you that you're standing.
And then there you can stand and you just find a good spot to hang out there. And there's a lot of people that do that, especially at the Dead shows. I haven't been to other shows where I've seen that happen, but that's where, like, if we ever go to another show like that or have a seat like that, maybe try that out and see what happens.
I think it would be different if we do another Wrigley show on the field, because at the time when we went and saw Green Day, that was our first concert back after COVID. It was very restricted. Like, you had to be in your section.
It definitely was very restricted because of those COVID things.
Like all this, we all remember what that was like.
But they also had the pit going on as well. They had an actual pit. So, like, I don't, it's restricted, but I don't know. It was a long time ago. It was a different sort of experience altogether.
Vibe. Yeah. So basically what I'm trying to say is, like, if we ever go back, I think I would probably do that, where it's like, just find, a spot by the bar, or, something like where you could just kind of stand up or stand back or whatever.
And going to your thing about, like, Enter Sandman, everybody was standing. I thought it was kind of funny because they did say, hey, we have one more song, and they played Killing in the Name of. And that's when I went to the bathroom for the last time. I was like, I'm not gonna stand in that line forever. I'm gonna try to beat the rush.
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure they're gonna come out for an encore.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody thought they were gonna do an encore, because as that song was wrapping up, a lot of people were funneling out.
A lot of people left, that's why we moved for Enter Sandman, we moved up, because that row left, so.
And then the house lights don't come up all the way. They do, the quick little encore thing where they leave the stage and they come back to play Enter Sandman. Yeah. And then I saw a few people walk from the back up front. Like, they were like, all right, it's not over yet. I'm going to hear this one last song.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if a lot of people didn't know what was going to happen there.
I just wonder if some people are like, okay, we came and saw, like, not a beginning to end thing, you know?
Yeah, that does happen too at other shows. You do see people start to funnel out.
Yeah, especially when you're at a big venue.
I got to get home. I got to get the car or
get
whatnot.
the car out so you're not, I mean, I get it. Like, we've been at places, I hate driving to places because of this, but it's like if you drive and then it's like to get the car out, it's like an hour wait because you have to wait for your turn to get in line and like get out or whatever. So if you do leave like 5 minutes or, you know, like before the whole crowd leaves. But downtown Chicago, I don't think that would be a thing unless they need to get an Uber or something. It's like, let's get the Uber before the prices jump up, or I don't know.
I just thought that was kind of funny. I was like, there's going to be an encore, people. You know that, right? Yeah. I was not expecting Metallica to be the encore, though.
Me neither. So we were talking about, like, I think it was at intermission, like what they hadn't played yet.
Yeah.
And you said Metallica, and you're like, I bet it'll be Master. I bet it'll be the last song of Master.
Yeah, I was not expecting Nothing Else Matters because everybody does that. Yeah. Apocalyptic covers it. Metallica, like, it's their big song. It's like the fans' biggest song. But also, like, that would make sense why they would do that. But it was also a slower song. So I was like, you're not going to pick that as your slow song, I don't think, for the second set. But maybe.
Yeah.
I would expect Master of Puppets. Like, that's the new big song, especially since Stranger Things, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was thinking. I didn't even think about Enter Sandman, honestly.
I didn't either.
But that makes the most sense out of all of them. And then knowing that they ended the set on that, and then like, okay, now you can do Nothing Else Matters earlier in the set.
Yeah.
But I wasn't expecting repeat songs either from bands.
Repeat bands, yeah.
But we got that with System of a Down, Metallica. Were there any other repeats?
No, those are the only two.
Okay.
Because we had Chop Suey and Toxicity, and then Nothing Else Matters and Enter Sandman. So, but during the intermission, we were like, there hasn't been Sabbath yet. There hasn't been, what else? I don't even remember everything that we said.
Bohemian Rhapsody is what I thought they would close on.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I was like, that's a big song, or that'd be the final song before going into into the encore. Rage Against the Machine, I don't think we talked about that, but I don't think that one came to my head during intermission.
10 bands were like, they haven't played this yet, they haven't played this yet, they haven't done this. But I was really surprised there was no Sabbath.
They did Motorhead though. I was shocked on that. I was not expecting that.
Yeah. The vocalist does come out from Motorhead, and he's like, some people say Lemmy is God, and you know,
I would agree with that.
Half the crowd cheers, you know. But then during his performance of that, it reminded me so much of the like cowboy in the Chicago rendition of the Nutcracker.
Oh, yeah.
Where the cowboy's like jumping and
the
stuff.
Wild Bill Hitchcock sort of scene,
Yeah, like I was just like, did he like study that and like do that as his, but yeah.
No, I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, so there were two vocalists, right? There was a male vocalist and a female vocalist, and they'd intermingle back and forth. They do duets together and whatnot. I felt like their energy on stage was really good, bouncing around back and forth all over the place. Costume changes as well in between songs.
Yeah.
The band members themselves also dancing around on the stage. Like when they'd come down to their solo, they do like a little walk and like it was a really cool sort of aesthetic. And that big skull as well.
Oh, yeah.
In the center.
Yeah.
During shows or during songs, it would like swing back and forth or swing forward and back type thing. It was really cool to see.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a stationary skull when we first sat down, but no, it would swing back and forth. I thought the lighting was great.
I did too.
No pyro, but they had like the little steam blast things go up, and it was like that made me smile. I was like, oh, that would be funny for pyro, or it would have been cool with pyro, but whatever.
It was really cool with there were some songs that had like smoke that came across the floor. Kind of, I mean, you see it in like plays and stuff.
Yeah.
But with the candles and stuff, it just seemed like this spooky. Yeah. It was really cool. It was a cool aesthetic.
And then the colors they chose as well were very. It reminded me a lot of like Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras sort of vibes of like the purples, the yellows, the greens, the blues, which again brought me back to the sort of more jazzy, swingy sort of vibe than it did a rock sort of vibe. But again, I really, really enjoyed that interpretation of it, and like I've never thought about doing a metal song as a swing song. Like, that's really cool. And there's one guy, Dick Cheese or whatever his name is.
Dick Cheese.
I think that's supposed to
is
be.
That his name?
I think Richard Cheese is his name, but that's like a nickname for Richard is Dick. So it's Dick Cheese. Yeah. He does the Down with the Sickness song in Dawn of the Dead.
Right.
Where it's like that doo-wop sort of thing. So that's the closest thing I have listened to that's more swingy or jazzy sort of vibe to it.
Yeah.
Is his stuff. And he's got one on like Toxicity. He does a bunch of them.
He does, yeah. I love his rendition in is it Dawn of the Dead? Dawn of the Dead, yeah.
The remake, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. I had a blast. I thought this was awesome. I was a little nervous going into it, just not knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
I do wish it was in a different venue for sure, different setting.
I think they're doing it in the theater to bring it more to the classical aspect, but I think with the energy of the songs, it would be fun in like a floor aspect, or like where you have a floor aspect.
Yeah, for sure. And I also kind of wanted a smaller venue, but at the same time, you sold this out. So
and they only had one night in Chicago.
So you could do this in a larger venue maybe.
Yeah.
Like, let's look at the fucking Radius or something.
Yeah.
And, something that actually has like a proper stage and then floor where you can just like mingle and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think that sort of vibe of this would have taken this just up one notch for me. I made just all that much better. But it was a blast. I had a lot of fun. The ticket prices weren't all that bad, I didn't think.
No. And we were the floor section, or like the
main floor all the way in the back. Yeah. Like row Q or something.
Yeah.
Like close to the back.
Yeah, we were really close to the back.
But we could have paid a lot more to get closer and whatnot. I think when we first looked, it was like $100 and some odd. We're like, we're not fucking paying that for these.
No, because in my mind, it was that candlelight that we did with Hans Zimmer, where we were like, this is fun, a fun night out, but it's not necessarily like I don't need to pay at that point, I think it was like $70 to be in the front section. So I think with this, I remember maybe we had this conversation where I was like, no, it's okay. Like, let's just go and check it out. Like, we can sit in the back. It's fine. Because I was kind of having that same thought process on what the setup, everything would be like. And I'm like, let's just be there to hear the music. We don't need to be really close.
And I think I had that same vibe of, again, like when we went into it, I was expecting it to be like an actual orchestra where you have the conductor up there doing the thing.
Yeah.
And it's just an oval and whatnot. And I was like, or half circle, not oval. The normal sort of setup for a classical sort of arrangement. So I expected that. I didn't expect the show that came along with this.
Right.
Because we didn't get that with Hans Zimmer. We didn't, I would not expect that if we went to go see the Linkin Park or something like that.
Yeah. Where they're just sitting and playing. And
I would expect just a quartet. But knowing the energy and knowing the sort of the show they put on, I was like, shit, that would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It felt very, and we brought this up already, like saying that they are like Trans-Siberian where they have multiple troops. This felt very Trans-Siberian-ish with just a different, not their own music, but covering other bands and whatnot. And I would have enjoyed this a lot more than Trans-Siberian, honestly.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So, I don't know. This was a blast. I would definitely check this one out again.
Oh,
even
I
if
would.
It's the same set and whatnot.
Yeah.
I actually had a lot of fun, and it's a different than our normal sort of concert that we go to. So it's cool to mix it up every now and then, too.
Yeah, no, I would go again. Where Trans-Siberian, we kind of said, like, we can take a few years off. Like, we'll probably see it again in our lifetime, but it's not a every year thing.
Yeah, it's going to be a 2 or 3 years from now we'll go type thing.
Yeah. So, but this, I would go next time that they announce it, or even check out the other candlelight that is either the Metal Night or something like that. Because I remember
the Linkin Park one would be fun.
Yeah. Come on, candlelight, bring back Linkin Park. But yeah, no, definitely, I would check that out. I would check this out again.
But yeah, I don't know. It's live music. We went out and checked it out, and we really enjoyed it. Didn't know what we were getting when we went into it. But yeah, it was a blast. It was so much fun, and just go check out some live music. You might find something really cool and unique.
Yep.
And we'll catch you at the next show.
Bye.